Van Eck has put out some monster targets for Ethereum by 2030. 22K, not that big, but that's their base case. The bullish case will definitely shock you, as will the bearish case. We're going to talk about this and everything happening in crypto and macro market news today. I've got Alex Tapscott to discuss, and of course, Dan, the chart guys on the back end. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. I hope that all of you are having a wonderful Thursday. I was having some tech issues while I was a little late. Market's still looking pretty good here. Taking a look, obviously, at CoinMarketCap. Perhaps we can zoom that in so you guys can see it a little better. No, we can't. It's not working. There we go. Bitcoin trading right around 71,000 right now. Still up almost 5% over 7 days, but flat on the 24-hour. Pretty much everything flat if you're looking at it over the day. But there have been some surprising moves, obviously, we've discussed of late. BNB making a new all-time high. Ethereum also obviously catching a bid over the past few weeks. We're going to discuss this and more with today's guest, Alex Tapscott. How are you, man? I hope you're doing great. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, so listen, now my screen share is not working. So 1 second, I was going to go ahead and bring something else up. But we've got this obvious huge headline, target by 2030, Ethereum 22K. I think that's low. I don't know what you think. I think that's low.
Well, $22,000. I mean, it's at about 3,800 right now. So what's that? Like, 6x?
5 to 6x, yeah.
6x from where we are. So 6x of 500 billion is rough math, 3 trillion. So basically they're saying the base case by 2030 is that Ethereum will be about as big as NVIDIA is today. And I think if you frame it in that kinds of terms, it actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, Ethereum has the potential, in my opinion, to become the most valuable asset of all time. This is a platform that today still supports the vast majority of new applications and new protocols and networks in Web3. And that's something I don't see slowing down anytime soon. In fact, I think with the addition of high-performing layer 2s and additional network upgrades, that this network will become sort of the hub around which there are many spokes and many different implementations and many blockchains. But fundamentally, Ethereum is sort of the anchor of all of it. So yeah, look, I think the target is an interesting one. I'd like to see what that looks like on an annualized, IRR basis. We've got about 6 years to get to, 4x. So it's probably like 70-80% per year type performance. But yeah, look, I mean, I think their target is interesting. I'd be curious to know what the high end price was there, Scott. I didn't have a chance.
I got it for you. I got it for you right here. It was in my newsletter today. Here we go. 22,000 base case, bear case 360. Woo.
You know what? The bear case is probably zero, honestly. Like,
but bear case, why stop at 360? If we're 360, we're at zero.
What is 360? It's like this thing doesn't work out. I don't see a 360, but
I know my camera's out having tech issues, but hopefully you guys can still hear me. But the bull case there, 154,000.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they get there. I think 22,000 seems like a nice fit. It's an valuation that in the near term is attainable because we can compare it to the value of other leading technology providers and platforms. You can think of, I think of NVIDIA and Ethereum as actually being quite similar. NVIDIA is providing the picks and shovels, the key infrastructure to unlocking the value of the AI age. And Ethereum is the platform on top of which all of these new applications and protocols are getting developed. So in many respects, they are both underpinning the growth of, to me, the two most important technology trends of this era.
Okay, so the base assumption there is that Ethereum continues to have the bulk of the, obviously, TVL, AUM, and that this is the place where the interest continues to build. I'm a huge ETH bull. I have been through the entire downturn. I've said countless times, I think that the lagging price action is an opportunity, not an indictment, and we've seen it many cycles. I mean, listen, we saw this thing go to 1,400 down to $80 and then to over 4,000. right?
Yeah,
So I mean, not that crazy to see what's happening, but there's been this argument that everything being built on Ethereum will end up being built on Bitcoin, which I think is nonsense. I think they're a decade behind, and that Solana is going to eat Ethereum's lunch.
yeah, I don't see it. I mean, and I'm not but bearish on either of those other names. I'm actually bullish on both. I just think that there's enough room for more kinds of platforms to do well. The question of percentage of TVL, like will Ethereum be the dominant player? Honestly, I'm not really concerned about that. Like the TVL on Ethereum at the beginning of the DeFi summer of 2020, 2021 was 100% because it was the only functioning platform out there. And today it's probably like 60%. But in that same period of time, the price of ETH has gone up, 5x, right? So you can lose market share and still grow in value. In 1919, Ford was making most of the cars in the United States because of the Model T. And by 1929, their market share had declined significantly because there was more competition. But the company was way bigger. And the reason for that is that way more people were driving cars. So if you think more people are going to be using Web3 native applications and there's going to be more developers building, you can have a smaller piece of a much bigger pie and end up being significantly more valuable. And I think that's just how people should think about it.
Yeah, of course. The more competitive, it's like Bitcoin dominance when you're adding, 500,000 meme coins on Solana. I know they don't count in that metric, but if you think about it rationally, naturally, the dominance of anything is going to drop as you add thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of competitors to that total pie. But as long as the total pie is growing, to your point, you're good to go. I mean, they really thought this out very well. Obviously, some of this has to do with the Ethereum spot ETFs, which have been approved on the 19B40s, but obviously have not launched with the S1s. But a lot of people, here you go, on Bloomberg. I love that we're talking about Ethereum on Bloomberg, just in general. But zooming out, if you thought about that in 2016, 17, 18, 19, not even a thing. Doubts about US Ether ETF demand, Herald test for second largest token, BlackRock Fidelity among issuers preparing to list Ether ETFs. JP Morgan analysts expect fraction of demand for Bitcoin funds. But wouldn't a fraction of demand for Bitcoin funds be a success for an Ethereum spot ETF launch?
Yeah, I mean, I think this point of view that Ether ETFs are somehow going to be bad for Ethereum is like a classic mid-curve opinion. It's like people overthinking things with like too many data points. The argument, just to say like what their point of view is that A, demand for Ethereum Ether will be less than Bitcoin. That's probably true. In fact, we have an example of that, like in Canada in 2021, there were Bitcoin ETFs and then Ethereum ETFs. And Ethereum ETFs still gathered tons of money, but it was like about 25 to 30% of what Bitcoin ETFs gathered. Just to put that in perspective, Bitcoin ETFs have gathered net $14 billion. So like that's like $4 to $5 billion of ETH demand if you view it as a comparable. So that's still hugely significant. But the other point is Grayscale has the Ethereum trust. And the question is, how much outflows will we see from that Ethereum trust? And will those outflows overwhelm the inflows? Again, this is overthinking the problem. Ethereum ETFs are good for Ether. And I think that we're going to be surprised to the upside by how much demand there is for this.
Yeah, I think everybody just wants to know how to trade it. So those metrics start to matter for the first few weeks. We saw, obviously, the GBTC unlock be bearish for a couple of weeks. And then, as you said, once that sort of supply stopped hitting the market, we saw exactly what happened. 49,000 to 39,000 to 74,000. Right? So a pretty astounding rise, and still seeing record inflows at the moment on Bitcoin spot ETFs. I think we're at our second longest streak of inflows day to day. And yesterday or 2 days ago was the largest day we'd had since March.
And let's not forget, too, that the companies that launched the Bitcoin ETFs are the same companies that are launching the Ether ETFs. And the success of these Bitcoin ETFs, I'm sure, is causing waves inside of those firms. Half of the entire ETF inflows for Fidelity in 2024 have come from Bitcoin. And over a quarter of the flows for BlackRock for their ETF business has come from Bitcoin. So you don't think that they're going to throw their weight behind the next product in this asset class? Their sales team clearly is seeing that there's a lot of resonance with end investors, with advisors, and even with these wealth platforms. And I think you're going to see a similar kind of push with Ethereum when it comes to market.
And I still think Ethereum is one of the most hated sort of assets from a investment perspective. I've been saying that for over a year. Like I want to be in the thing that has a fundamental use case that seemingly nobody wants to get on board with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, look, I mean, I'm a big fan of Solana, and Solana's captured the zeitgeist, I guess, in this cycle with some of these, meme coins.
Casino, but yes,
yeah.
I agree.
And look, gambling is a big business, and obviously Bitcoin is the mother of all cryptocurrencies. Its base case as a store of value, as digital money for the digital economy, I think is really compelling. And then you throw on top of it the potential for Bitcoin to act as a protocol and platform for new apps. I think that's great too. But in the middle is this thing, as you point out, that seems to be kind of overlooked somewhat. I just think we're going to see the most hated rally of all time in Ethereum in 2024.
I mean, you can even see hints of it when it first did that 30% bump on the news, the surprising news that the Ethereum spot ETFs were likely to be approved. You talked about sort of the proliferation of layer twos, the way that this could get there, the speed of those. Why layer twos, layer threes, when we have theoretically other blockchains where you can do all of this on layer one? I mean, do you think we get to the point where that layer two complexity is abstracted away? Because it's still kind of difficult with the bridging and understanding it and opening the wallets. And I just don't think your average person still can use Ethereum in a cheap way. I think most of them just pay the high fees because using the layer one is more natural.
Yeah, I think that the layer two thesis is actually very bullish for Ethereum. Some people were concerned that, with the launch of layer twos, that one or two layer twos would become dominant. And then all of a sudden there's a network that allows you to settle transactions. Maybe that thing actually usurps Ethereum, right? The layer two becomes a layer one. And some of this is sort of semantics, but I think that concern is no longer really one that people should be focused on. If you look at the layer two world, it's highly fragmented. All of these different layer twos are vying for transaction volume and user attention. But there's no single one that's sort of like ruling them all, so to speak. And I think that that's very good for Ethereum because it treats Ethereum as sort of like the base settlement layer for this entire ecosystem. And again, like that's something that I've been talking about for many, many years. You can think of Ethereum as kind of like the electrical grid for like a big city. The city's called like Web3 town or something. And these different layer twos are sort of like substations that regulate the flow of electricity on the grid, make it more efficient, make it, more localized. But fundamentally, the bigger the city gets, the more valuable the electric utility becomes. And I think that we sometimes lose sight of the fact that underpinning all of this is the Ethereum network.
Yeah, I agree. As a base layer network, it makes a ton of sense. I don't think any of those usurp it either. There's a huge story today that is not getting the attention I think it should be. Robinhood to buy crypto exchange Bitstamp in effort to expand outside the US. So it's huge from the perspective that Robinhood is clearly making a major commitment to expanding in crypto. I've heard rumors of them buying a lot of other TradFi businesses on their radar as well that are crypto adjacent, but I can't really get into those until they're fact. But Robinhood is on a mission right now to build a full suite of services for all assets. That's all I can say, both institutionally and in crypto. But I mean, Bitstamp is the exchange for Bitcoin historically. This is the one where everybody sort of said the whales were always, if you wanted to know what the whales were doing, check Bitstamp, right? You want the Bitstamp Bitcoins. Even SBF once told me that in a podcast, sadly. But, expanding their footprint outside the US with one of the biggest names in the business over time, only $200 million, which I was a bit surprised, cash only. Yeah, I thought it'd be a much, much more valuable deal.
Yeah. Sorry, not to interrupt. I just wonder what the metrics are for that business. Like, I gotta assume it's very, very profitable. So yeah, maybe there's a way to scoop up private, profitable crypto asset platforms for pretty reasonable valuations. And so it makes you wonder what other public companies with the currency to do that, the ability to tap the market and raise cash or maybe use their stock, might be interested in acquiring other kinds of businesses. I think the big question though is not when will what's the next crypto exchange to be bought by a millennial and Gen Z facing wealth platform like Robinhood, but when is the major financial institution going to buy one of the big exchanges, right? Like, is there a case that a Morgan Stanley or a JP Morgan or one of these big firms should buy, a Coinbase. I think the odds are pretty low in the short term of something like that happening. But you have to wonder if you want to get exposure to 100 million verified accounts in the case of Coinbase, maybe more, 110, and a platform that is the dominant sort of regulated entity. It starts to look kind of interesting. I don't know anything. I'm just sort of completely speculating. But I think that consolidation is something that we're going to start to see a lot more of in the next little while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also there's an institutional angle here. European institutions, to my understanding, largely trade on Bitstamp. So even beyond the volume, on a day-to-day basis, or how many retail customers they have, this has long been the place that European hedge funds and institutions go to trade Bitcoin specifically.
Yeah, it's a big market. There's 500 million people there, and a lot of funds and other firms that eventually are going to need an on-ramp and a way to transact in the asset class.
Yeah. So do you have any other things that you're watching really closely here? I know that you've had your eye on base when we were talking about layer twos. I think obviously Wall Street on the radar. And then, of course, I would say, thawing of U.S. political anger towards the crypto industry for various reasons. I mean, I'm really getting into one of those places where I find it hard to see the massive bearish case. I can see why people are cautiously optimistic with Bitcoin at this price and things having pumped, but it seems like nothing but tailwinds to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had historical headwinds in the aftermath of FTX, and then sometime sort of mid last year, that started to switch. It started with the federal judge striking down the SEC case against Grayscale, and then eventually with ETFs. And I think that by sort of the beginning of this year, the whole environment was balanced. I wouldn't say it turned positive, but I think it was sort of neutral. And so the industry was able to sort of grow on its own. And now it appears as if things have turned from headwinds into tailwinds. Now, I think that the much heralded reversal by Biden and others is probably overstated.
Reversal. It's a let's not talk about this so negatively and so outwardly that it hurts us with voters. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes?
Completely, but there's clearly been a tone shift, and that part is undeniable. The Fit 21 bill, I know that some people have taken issue with some of the specifics, but in my opinion, it's very significant that the House of Representatives voted in a bipartisan manner on a bill that would sort of limit the ability of the SEC to try and regulate the whole industry and create sort of divisions of labor, and also make it easier for companies to domicile and build lawful Web3 businesses in the United States. I think that's very significant, and obviously that hasn't become law yet. But the fact that Biden said he wouldn't veto that, I think, is also significant. So it's an interesting question to ponder, which is, does this change of government tone signal that the U.S. is going to now really dominate this next era of the web? Because up until now, Web3 businesses had succeeded in the United States, not because of government support, but almost in spite
of it.
But the states. I'm Canadian, for your listeners. We look. I've lived in the U.S. before, but you look at the U.S. and you're like, look, the biggest common market, the biggest VC industry, the most technology workers, the best computer science programs at the most prestigious universities. I'm not trying to blow smoke, but there's a lot of good stuff going on that allows things to thrive, right? Especially around innovation and entrepreneurship. But then, you got to have a government that's, if not supportive, at least is sort of neutral, right? Calling balls and strikes. And I think now we have more visibility into what that position might look like. So where does that leave the rest of the world? Well, a lot of countries had tried to use, I guess, the vacuum that existed in the States as a way to basically hang a shingle and say, we're the place where you want to build, right? So if you look at the UAE and Dubai, or you look at the United Kingdom and the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak talking about making Great Britain a Web3 capital, and if you look at Singapore, and I was just in Japan, sat on a panel with one of the ministers, a minister for Web3 and AI. That is his official title.
I mean, yeah, imagine having that in the United States.
These things don't exist, right? So
are.
and it's like Japan's thinking, Web 1, look, they didn't build a lot of internet companies, but they did have a lot of hardware and they dominated, in a lot of respects there. Web 2, they basically completely missed it, right? Like if you think about all the big, multi-trillion-dollar companies that got developed and built in the Web 2 era, they're all American and some of them are Chinese, right? So they're thinking, okay, Web 3, we got another kick at the can here. How do we make sure that we can get ourselves back in the game? So where does it leave countries like that if the U.S. is changing its tune? I think it's too early to say, but I think it's probably put people on notice.
Yeah, we actually have some metrics that align with sort of our assumption here. U.S. reclaims crypto crown on Bitcoin ETFs, Trump rise in polls. You guys may remember actually that the South Korean won last year took over in a big way for the main currency used to trade crypto. We know that we had obviously this fear that the SEC was going to crack out on everything. Everyone was leaving the United States. Well, now the dollar is once again the dominant crypto used to trade, largely because obviously of these ETFs and volumes rising, price going up. But this is pretty significant. This shows exactly what you're saying, that the money is where the mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah, the money is where the people are spending it. I'm shocked that the US dollar was ever not the main trading pair for this asset class, because it's obviously what people in the States use, but it's also, the global reserve currency. Remarkable data points, Scott.
Yeah, I have a great comment here. Does it matter that Ethereum is centralized, has an inconsistent monetary policy, and had an unlimited token supply? Of course, these failures matter. Why is everyone ignoring these failures? And of course, grifters ignore the failures if there's money to be made. Love you guys.
Hot take. What's your point of view on that?
You want to take one? Listen, I think that once you get an ETF, all of those things to your average retail investor, institution, to Wall Street, to Larry Fink, etc., are become irrelevant. I think if you are a Bitcoiner and you're viewing Ethereum as a direct competitor to Bitcoin using the same metrics and comparisons, it does not add up to Bitcoin for those reasons, but that doesn't mean it can't work as a base layer platform, as you discussed. As money, I think that is a very, very good and eloquent point.
Yeah,
but as a platform, it doesn't matter. And I don't think Ethereum has ever been competing with Bitcoin to be hard money, even though we have the ultrasound money people.
I know there are these ultrasound money people. I mean, like, does Apple or NVIDIA or Microsoft have an ultrasound monetary policy? Like, no, they can issue stock, they can buy back stock. It's a different set of conditions. In that case, it's a management team and a board of directors approving it. In the case of Ethereum, it's from network upgrades. But even still, like, I don't think anybody was talking about Ethereum as digital gold or ultrasound money. Ethereum is fundamentally a technology platform. And if it's useful and people build on it, then its value is going to go up, or it's likely to go up, I should say. And those are the signals that I'm following. I'm looking at, where's the developer activity? Where's the layer 2 activity? Like, and where are the most interesting applications in areas like, DePIN or decentralized AI or DeFi or whatever. And I just keep coming back to Ethereum. So those are the things that I'm interested in at this point. And, like, you can own Bitcoin and Ether. I just don't get it. It's like,
it's okay. I was just going to say, I always likened it to, and I have in the past, maybe now NVIDIA is the better corollary than Amazon. But I used to joke that Bitcoiners who make these comments about Ethereum remind me, it would be likened to a hardcore gold bug being triggered every time someone bought NVIDIA stock. They just have nothing to do with one another.
Yeah,
like, you can be a gold bug and believe that that's hard money and still invest in the stock market. It's fine.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's always what got me. Listen, we got 1 minute left. Anything left I might have missed that you want to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, Scott, it's great to catch up again. It's a very exciting time, obviously. The things that I'm interested in are not only, the crypto prices, though that matters for investors, of course, but
it's
also
better for titles, man. It's better for titles. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got to get them here somehow.
But also, how blockchain and crypto assets are intersecting with other technologies. And honestly, I think that's the thing that is going to define the next era. I wrote in my new book, Web3, Charting the Internet's Next Economic and Cultural Frontier, how it's the convergence of blockchain and AI and extended reality and robotics that I think is going to help to redefine, business culture and society. And to me, that's something that can only happen if these technology platforms can scale and reach their potential.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Thank you so much. As always, happy to have you. Great perspective. Look forward to doing it again soon in the very near future, man. Everybody give Alex a follow on X. It's his tag down below. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Yeah. Take care, Scott.
I see it. It's so funny, your comments. Fred Krueger needs to cope. Yeah, that's one of the hardcore maxis. Nothing against the guy, but man, he said I was repulsive once. He had actually, let me find the tweet. This is, I guess, is a pretty good example of the kind of seething that maxis tend to. Oh, I found it. Amazing. You guys might remember that I had Raoul Paul on, and we talked about meme coins, and I was actually being very critical of meme coins in the video, saying it was a casino. I didn't support it. I didn't like it. But I said that you can't ignore the fact that they're bringing TVL to the chain. I actually said it was likely whale manipulation that we're launching a lot of these tokens to bring more money to Solana to move the price up, which is not a positive. Raoul Paul and Scott Melker, two grown men, discuss how meme coins give value to chains like Solana. They represent a fundamental revolution for people who are tired of playing the old game. And then goes on to say things like, I'm more repulsive than Raoul, quite a lot of things. But yeah, these guys are the most easily triggered human beings in the world. And honestly, I'm here for it. At this point, I just get in these moods sometimes where I want to poke the nest. It's really fun. Triggering maxis and watching them seethe is, I mean, it's probably like a top 3 activity in my life, because I used to kind of be one of them. Before I bring on Dan, I want to remind you guys that on the roundtable, I broke this down for you guys 2 days ago. Since I can't really engage with your comments on YouTube. It's impossible because it's 9,000 scams and people telling you to buy a trading course or something like that. You can go, it's in the description, it says to comment and engage. There's a link, and we can discuss on the roundtable where you have to be a registered human being and you can't be a bot. And so I responded to everyone's comments on Tuesday. It was really fun to have the engagement with you guys. You can do that. Fred Krueger, not a guy you'd let babysit your kids. I mean, he is the horror guy from Nightmare on Elm Street, right? The guy's name is Freddy Krueger. We got that going for me. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. I know he's like friends with James Lavish, but just a perfect example of the easy triggering. I'm sure now somebody's going to send this and I'm going to hear about it, but whatever. Fuck that guy. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring on Dan Chart, guys. Ethereum to 22K by tomorrow. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a lock. It's a lock.
By tomorrow, obviously.
Yeah, no, I like the conversation you guys were just having, because it makes a lot of sense, and it's just one of my pet peeves is people that are so tunnel vision for just one thing. There's only one, when in reality, managing your wealth and diversification, there's so many different ways to play markets, and you gotta be open to things evolving and changing.
Yeah, I mean, but there's only Bitcoin, and if you don't live in a cardboard box, then you're not spending all your money on Bitcoin and saving it forever to never sell, and you're going to get kicked out of the club.
That's the other one that really gets me. It's like, you
never sell.
You should never have a house, so you should put it into Bitcoin. And I'm thinking about all the experiences I've had on my land and my property with friends and family, and it's like, that makes absolutely no sense. You cannot value
like
those
fun.
things.
You like fun, and dude, you're kicked out. I'm sorry. But yeah, happy birthday, by the way. Somebody said happy belated birthday. I didn't know it was your birthday. So
yesterday.
That makes me a bad friend, but happy belated birthday right there. And let's take a look at your charts. Let's take a look at what's going on here in this market. We got Bitcoin obviously pushing towards that all-time high, a few percent.
Yeah, we're in a good spot. We're almost at 2-month highs. And even if we fail this go around at 72, we're just going to be looking for a daily higher low. And then we'll be talking about the possibility of a cup and handle. So there's no red flags at this point. We're extremely strong, and all-time highs looking pretty good. New base of support, and just patient. It might be a little bit more sideways, but a good start to the week, that's for sure.
How do you like my stripes that are my face now? Very good. Hopefully you can still hear me. Guys, we're going to roll with the stripes. I can't get the camera to go back on. It's been one of those days. But yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin looks great here, but still ranging. Like if it's trading consistently below 60, I'll be a little worried. If it's trading consistently above 74, I'll be really excited. Right now, we're just going to get really euphoric because we're in the top half of the range. Yay.
That's exactly right. And onto Ethereum, sideways consolidation, nothing wrong with that. After the huge move up, so often we see a pullback of consolidation, 50% retracement or whatever. So nice to be consolidating at the top of that range. But as we've been saying for a very long time, it's all about ETH BTC. Can we confirm the first weekly uptrend in years to tell us this time is different? And that's going to be the story for me in June in crypto is, does ETH BTC confirm this weekly uptrend? We've been waiting for months and months and months. So many failures. Is this the time it's different? And, I'm watching these EMAs. They're EMA 12 and 26. If we pull it off, they're going to cross bullish for the first time in over a year. And so that would be a significant enough shift to say it looks like a long-term bottom is being set.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Every one of these pumps, if you take a look at that chart, goes right into that line and just dies a miserable death for years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no better reason for this to be the time it's different than the ETF. And obviously, if we had actual ETF inflows, that would make us a lot more confident. Now it's just a waiting game. And yesterday, Gensler saying, a couple comments about it, that maybe it's going to take a little bit more time than people are hoping for. But again, it's just a waiting game at this point, and maybe it takes a few weeks, maybe it takes a couple months, but it's nice to know that it's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be not an immediate sell the news event, but in the long term, as Alex said, I think you can't be anything but bullish on the existence of an Ethereum spot ETF. See how it can hurt. Yeah, for sure. So what else are you watching as we sort of consolidate sideways here on Bitcoin?
So obviously Binance, we talked about this about a month ago, and it's just so, it's so boring. And this is how markets work. You just tighten and tighten and tighten. And then in the span, I made a clip last week saying within 2 days, when this range breaks, within 2 days, everybody's gonna be talking about Binance because it happens so fast when it happens. And you get, 3 days of opportunity exceeding any of the opportunity in the last, 2 months. And that's one of the benefits of technical analysis. Even if you think it's, voodoo, whatever, it can tell you when to start anticipating because volatility is coming when ranges get this tight. And if nothing else, it's an extremely useful tool for that. And so, Binance is doing its thing. And of course, when we hit blue sky breakout, we use back burners, which is just first oversold conditions. Here's, first 15-minute oversold since all-time highs, leading to 3% plus. Next, we'll be looking for first hourly oversold, eventually to be looking for a dip buy. That's not close to happening, but we know. That's why I call it a back burner. It's put it on the back burner. That trade will come to us eventually. And so that's the next one to be watching is hourly oversold on Binance. But it's just blue sky breakout. And it's always a good thing when a major name is hitting blue sky breakout because it all, rising tide raises all ships and sentiment. It's only a positive.
That sort of tightening consolidation there, it's just looks like a series of slightly lower highs and slightly higher lows. That kind of reminds me of what I anticipate with Bitcoin whenever this finally happens, right? This sort of, I can't tell really, I don't know how long, that was less time. I think that was only March, but if we do this for 4 or 5 months in Bitcoin and just kind of tighten up, of course I can be down, but that's what I'm looking for after any sort of post halving in the cycle.
And it happens, this is 2 months, but we're seeing the exact same thing on ETH. You just zoom in and it's the same thing just on a shorter term time frame. And so these patterns happen so consistently just on different time frames. And I love the ones, I've been getting into looking for them on monthly charts. And, we were talking about CCJ and uranium for a long time over the last year. And it did the same thing here. Look at this monthly chart. That's an entire year of tightening. And then it's go time. And just seek out the tightening patterns and watch for their breaks.
Yeah. What else are you looking at?
So I want to talk a little bit about just the perspective of the broader market. We know NVIDIA is running the show now. And, I know we got mostly crypto viewers, so I'm going to do some analogies. But essentially, the way I view the market from a zoomed out bird's eye view is NVIDIA is leading the semiconductor sector, obviously. Semiconductors are leading the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is leading the S&P 500. It's this game of relationships. And what you want to see happen to stay strong in this market is essentially, let's say the NASDAQ is like Bitcoin. And we know in the most bullish crypto environment, Bitcoin leads, and then it, consolidates healthily and money rotates into the altcoins. The broader market, it's the NASDAQ is Bitcoin and IWM is altcoins. It's all the smaller companies, and it's been significantly underperforming. It's doing the same thing as altcoins right now. The broader market's performing beautifully. Why is IWM not breaking out? Same thing. Bitcoin's performing beautifully. Why are these altcoins not breaking out? And so the best case is when NVDA sees weekly consolidation next, which will be inevitable at some point. Does IWM confirm this little weekly cup and handle attempt? If that happens, best case scenario, markets are just fine. That's the perfect rotation. So, if you're watching crypto, keep an eye on the stock market. As we know, NASDAQ and S&P 500 sentiment does have an impact on short-term price action of Bitcoin. It's definitely worth paying attention to. But watch for that rotation, because that's when you know it's just another big check mark for the bulls. Yep, this is ideal scenario, and I don't have anything to worry about if this is going on. And that's what I'm looking for here in June. Next time NVIDIA tops out, does that money rotate to these weaker places for them to get their leg up?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And a perfect sort of comparison to the crypto market for people who don't understand. I remember everybody was super bearish on IWN down there at the bottom at support. It was over. It was breaking the range lows, and it ended up just sweeping those lows and heading up. So, and now you can see it's sort of broken out and is above. So that's exactly what I would look for, is what you're discussing.
Yeah, and it's right now IWM is the weakest it's been compared to the S&P 500 in a very long time. Here's IWM, and again, it's the same thing as these alts divided by Bitcoin, but IWM divided by SPY. I mean, we got to go back decades for it to be this weak. So again, watching for that rotation to try and cool this chart off a bit, but it requires patience, because I've been watching for this for a few weeks at this point, and it's just not happening yet, and so. It's no guarantee, but it is something I'm watching for in June.
Absolutely. You got anything else? I think that's all of them you got up there, right?
That's it. Yep.
All right, man. Well, once again, happy birthday. Everybody follow Chart Guys for a birthday present. He should get, I don't know how many people we got here, but we should get about 1,000. I'll assume some of you are. Okay, 850-ish new followers right now for his birthday. If you don't go follow him and subscribe to his YouTube, then you have not wished him a happy birthday officially. Man, thank you so much. Still disappointed that you live on your land instead of living on your Bitcoin, but I'll get over it by next week.
All right, Scott, have a good one. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, guys. Once again, I just want you to go check out the roundtable. Something I'm pretty passionate about. I hope it works. We've got, like I said, myself, George from Cryptos R Us, and the Altcoin Daily guys, and Mario Knopfel. We're all going to be actively using it, making content for the street, which is part of it. It's going to be pretty awesome. I think I'll just go trigger maxis for the rest of the day. I did just send a tweet because I'm so ADD while we were talking that said, would anyone like to join my new band? It's called Seething Maxis, and all of our songs are about shitcoins. Honestly, I could have crafted that tweet better if I had more time and I wasn't focused on Dan's amazing analysis. If your house isn't remortgaged, you're not a real maxi. If you haven't taken out a third mortgage into rising interest rates, not a real maxi. You don't count. Anyways, guys, that's all I've got. I will have Market Mavericks this afternoon with Gareth Soloway and Mike McGlone. I can be the lone bull amongst what is a group of bears called? Clan? Pride? What are they? Shitheads? I don't know. But I'll be there. Love those guys. Fun to be the bull in the bear party, and we need varying opinions, and it's awesome. So that will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be on X Spaces in 30 minutes with Mario and Ran. Go check out Roundtable in the description. That's all I got for you guys. It has been real. Peace.